Good morning, everyone. This is Kelly with Arlington County, and welcome to today's webinar for office tenants on establishing a green team and engaging with your employees. We have a great lineup of speakers with some really great ideas for you, creative ways to engage your employees throughout the green games. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Just real quickly, for those who may not have been on the webinar yet, a little bit about how today's webinar will work. First of all, when you signed in, there was a phone number, an access code, and a personal audio pin assigned specifically to you as the attendee. And if you are listening over your computer speakers, that's fine. However, you will not be able to ask verbally any questions during the Q&A portion. What you can do is type your questions at any point into the chat or the questions window on the dashboard of the webinar. But if you would like to be able to speak to us over the telephone, then you're going to need to look in the audio portion of the webinar and use those 3 sets of numbers and call in over the phone. During the Q&A session, if you do want to ask your question verbally and you've joined on the phone, there's a little raise hand icon button, and you can go ahead and click that. We'll call on you, and we will unmute you at that time. Just also a notation, as with all of our webinars, today's webinar is being recorded, and it will be posted to the Green Games website under the Events tab as soon as we can get it up there after today's webinar. So today's agenda, as I said, we have a great lineup of speakers. First, we'll be hearing from Jessica Aberland of Arlington County, and she is on the same team with Sarah and I, and is helping to lead the efforts of our internal green team here with the county. Then we'll be hearing from Howard Daycoff. He is actually snowed in Chicago. He is with a law firm up there, Levenfeld Pearlstein, and they participated. Most of you probably know that the Arlington Green Games is replicated after a Chicago Green Office Challenge that was launched up in that city about 2 years ago now, and our program is modeled after that. Howard, his firm participated in the Chicago program, and he has some lessons learned and ideas for you all today. And then last but not least, we'll hear from Lauren Pitcher with EPA Energy Star, and she will be talking about some free resources that are available to you. After all of the presentations, we'll have time at the end of today's webinar for question and answers. Just a brief note, again, we've been really emphasizing this date, but February 28th, fast approaching. That's the deadline to submit your baseline scorecard. You have a private login to the website, and you will go ahead and log on and submit each of the 7 categories of the Green Action Scorecard by February 28th. We'll be in touch with you shortly thereafter to schedule one-on-one meetings to talk to you about the results of your baseline and ways that you can improve your score throughout this year. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah, and she is going to introduce our first speaker.
Good morning, everyone. Wanted to first introduce Jessica Aberland, our first speaker for today. Jessica is a green building planner for Arlington County and heads up the county's internal employee environmental education and outreach program. Prior to joining the county, she worked for a small green building consulting company in D.C. She consulted on dozens of LEED for new construction projects and LEED for existing buildings projects, including the gold level LEED EV certification of Pepco headquarters in D.C. Before she was a consultant, Jessica worked as a green mission specialist for Whole Foods Market, where she implemented composting, recycling, green cleaning, and other initiatives. And with that, turn it over to Jessica.
Thanks, Sarah. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Again, Jessica Aberland. I'm a green building planner with Arlington County government. So I spend most of my time at Arlington County actually working on the new development in the county. So I review building plans, construction waste management plans, things like that. And I also have a little bit of time carved out to work on our green team and employee education program. So what I want to do today is switch slides. Is go do a brief overview of AIR, and then I'll go into the mechanics of our employee education program. Hopefully some of you will find that helpful in developing your program, and then talk about some challenges. So AIR is the Arlington Initiative to Reduce Emissions. It's a internal government program to reduce 10% of our emissions from our operations by 2012. And how we do that is through building by building assessments and audits. Lighting retrofits come out of that, tweaking building automation system settings. So that's one part. Employee engagement, which is boldened because we're talking about that today, is another big part. And then fleet management. So we've incorporated hybrid vehicles and other alternative fuels into our fleet to help reduce our emissions. And then we have a community goal to reduce community-wide emissions. We're developing a community energy plan, and one of the programs is what you're involved in, Green Games. That's part of the community outreach of the AIR program. And some of the strategies we've used are definitely focusing on energy efficiency in green buildings, to focus on that low-hanging fruit of energy efficiency before we get into anything really exciting like renewable energy, solar panels or wind or anything. And then transportation alternatives, focusing on that in the community, recycling and water reduction. So getting into the employee education program, we kicked this off with a big countywide meeting in Arlington. We did a lot of promotion for the meeting. We sent out employee updates. We did a lot of personal invitation to folks. And at the meeting, we had everyone take the Green Office Pledge, which lists 10 things that all the employees can do to save energy. So turning off lights and computers and different things like that. So that was kind of the kickoff. Then later on, we felt a need for some more continuing engagement with the employees. So what we have implemented is a monthly Air Captain Bulletin, which is just a copy of one of the bulletins from November that I pulled out of my Outlook email that we sent out to the Air Captains. Air Captains is just another name for our green team. Those are the folks that are on the green team. So in this email, which they get, we give them some tips, actions that they can do to help save energy. And what we asked in the beginning is for them to set up a bulletin board in their suite or in their office where they can post these for everybody in their office to see. One of the challenges we have at Arlington is that we have a couple dozen buildings and over 3,000 employees. So trying to reach everybody as much as possible efficiently was kind of a challenge for us. So this is where we're at right now. We're working on this. So I'll go through this bulletin point by point so you can see what we include. So the first thing is we send out a tip every month on what they can do to save energy. And this is actually in the form of a poster, which looks like this, that has a little bit of motivation. Why should they do something to save energy? In this case, it's also dollar savings. The next thing that I include is instructions, anything to help implement this action. So I sent out instructions on how to actually set your computer to sleep mode. Then what I do is I just put up a kind of sample of what their bulletin board should look like, which is this. So you can see it has the poster of that I sent out, the instructions that their coworkers can see. And then this is kind of the header of the bulletin board. They kind of leave this up there all the time. And then every month I send out a new poster. So this computer sleep mode will come down, the instructions will come down, and I'll send out something different. One of the things we sent out is how to set your computer to double-sided printing. So it helps just, what's good about this that folks really like is that it really only takes about 5 minutes for them to take down and put up the poster, and it's a way for us to keep in contact with them to help keep them engaged on an ongoing basis. Here's a photo of one of our air captains, Cynthia, and her bulletin board, which you can see she's very proud of. And then at the end, I asked them to take the next step. If they have some time, they can offer for their coworkers to set their computers to sleep mode, or at the very least forward this information onto them so that they're aware of it. One of the things that we've struggled with is kind of helping to connect these actions to a measurable change in energy use. So it's something we're still struggling with, but what we've included in these is some information about their building's energy use, and hopefully maybe they can get some kind of indication of what their actions, what a difference their actions are making. So we use this Energy Cap software, which I'm not super familiar with. My co-air captain leader, Laura Conant, who also works for the county, she's kind of in charge of this portion of it. But it has information about previous years' energy use, previous years' energy costs, and things like that. And they can drill down into different tabs to show monthly usage and building by building. And then the kind of final layer is we have a air captain meeting every quarter. And this kind of, the reason we instituted this is because we felt that we needed to reach out to a lot of the different buildings and departments. And one of the challenges we have is that a lot of the folks that are air captains were the folks that came to that meeting in the very beginning. And those people that came to the meeting, most of them are actually from the building that the meeting was handled in. So it doesn't reach out to all of our employees. So what we've done is we have a quarterly meeting, 6 different meetings, one for libraries, one for the Department of Human Services, one for the courts and the jail and the police, and some other departments. And that's kind of help recruit more folks and kind of build the education program. So one of the things I felt was really helpful, and just a kind of funny anecdote, because we had 3 air captain meetings yesterday, actually. One of the things I did is I asked, we actually took a field trip at the end of the meeting. Within the building, we went to one of the air captains' desks, and I wanted to do a demo on how to set the computer in sleep mode, because I know it's kind of tricky. Those instructions were really kind of long and complicated. And I did this at each of the meetings, and actually none of the air captains had their computer set to sleep mode, even though we had sent that bulletin out about how to do it. And so that's another good use of the air captain meetings, is just to follow up on some of the other, I guess, actions and implementation items that you had wanted to do. And I think one of the keys is just to continually follow up and to not get discouraged, but look at it more of like a problem-solving thing. So I think that's all that I have. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Great. Thanks, Jessica. That's really helpful for folks to get a feel for the types of things that we're doing and what they can possibly do themselves, and combination of in-person and information and electronic communications seems to be a great advantage. So our next speaker today is Howard Dakoff. He is an equity partner in the Chicago-based law firm of Levenfield Pearlstein and concentrates his practice in condominium, real estate, and general corporate law. Howard is the firm's corporate social responsibility officer and has served on the firm's environmental task force and green development initiatives. Howard has visited glaciers, tropical rainforests, coral reefs, and mountains on 6 continents and has trekked to the summits of Mount Kilimanjaro and Mount Rainier. He has also authored numerous articles on green initiatives. So we're excited to have Howard here today, and go ahead and turn it over to Howard.
Hi, everybody. As stated, my name is Howard Dakoff, and I'm with a Chicago-based law firm, and we were a participant in the Chicago Green Office Challenge. I'm looking here, guys. Sarah, my seminar slideshow is not moving. Can you...
Just go ahead and click on it one more time, actually.
Okay, let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay, perfect. So Levenfield Pearlstein was asked to speak to you, the participants of the Arlington, Virginia Green Office Challenge, so you could get an idea of what we did and how we became successful in our Chicago Office Challenge, to see if any of our ideas or any of our roadmap to success could be applicable to your organizations. We were one of 200 participants in the Chicago Green Office Challenge, and for purposes of perspective, we are a 100-employee company, and we had 2 floors in a Chicago downtown office. The Chicago Green Office Challenge was broken up into 4 tiers. Tier 1 was the highest tier. Tier 4 was the lowest tier. Most of the participants started out in tiers 3 and 4, depending on whatever green initiatives they had been doing in the course of their normal business. And we started out in tier 3, towards the bottom, and we ultimately, at the end of the year-long program, through implementation of the various green initiatives, ended up in tier 1, which was their highest tier. So what did we do? Our green team success was based upon 3 primary areas. We had a planning stage, we had an implementation stage, and we had a communication stage. What I'm going to do is walk you through the mechanics, the nuts and bolts of what we did, and then at the end of this presentation, I'm going to give you examples of some of the creative ideas we used to engage our employees. Because ultimately, if the participation of a company is only really bought into by a few individuals as a pet project, it's not going to receive a true buy-in, and you'll have limited success. If you engage your employees and get them on board, then the process becomes fun. It can be a cost-saving measure, and you can actually make a difference with your reduced carbon footprint and emissions. So our success. Planning. When we first joined the Green Office Challenge, the way it was structured in Chicago was there was an internet-based system, and there were all these different categories color-coded, and they went from pure, mechanics, plumbing, building, waste management, utility usage, measurements. They also had a category for creative ideas. They had a category for carbon footprint emissions. And so we went and analyzed all the categories and prioritized what we could do first. It makes sense. We went through the whole list and said, anything we can do almost in the first few days, let's do, and then let's prioritize those that are going to take longer to implement, either because of cost or, more frankly, just because of mechanics. And the mechanics, an example would be from day one, we wanted to go to double-sided copying. We had been a law firm that primarily only did single-sided copying. Well, it sounds easy, but we have a lot of attorneys who are litigators, and litigators' court documents are required to be single-sided. So we had to have some time to talk with various groups to make sure that the new policy could ultimately work for them. And we ultimately reached an agreement where it's a default setting of double-sided copying, and it can be manually turned off for each group. But you have to get your employees on board. Number 2, determine a champion from an implementation standpoint. What that means is there has to be a specific person and or team at each company who's designated. That sounds like it's your captains. But that person also should engage a cross-section of employees at the company. So as a law firm, we're structured as you would imagine. We have staff, which will be made up of office staff or secretaries. We have attorneys and paralegals, and we have management personnel. And so what we did on our green team was we had a cross-section of individuals from each of the different segments because they needed to be a spokesperson or ambassador to their segment. If we only had attorneys pushing down policies from the top, how are we ultimately going to get the cooperation from paralegals and support staff? You may, because out of fear, but if you can inspire people, you're going to get much more participation and excitement. Establish a budget. Many of the items required zero budget. A handful of them did require a budget, so we had to really understand which items we wanted to go after. The way it was in Chicago, each of the different items was assigned a point value. And the bigger the point value, the faster you can move up from the low tier 3 to the tier 1. Some of the bigger items with a higher point value were more difficult and required a financial contribution. An example would be we participated in the Chicago Climate Exchange, where we actually bought credits to offset our carbon footprint. So we are a carbon neutral company. That required a financial investment and commitment for 3 years. So we just had to establish a budget. Buy-in. I was alluding to earlier with employee engagement buy-in. You don't need every individual in the company to support the company's decision to be a part of the Green Games. What you do need is you need a vision, and you need to be able to communicate that vision, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Implementation. So now you have your green team. You have the items on the system that was just explained to you. And you have to have that champion organized. You need to have regular meetings. You need to have a plan of attack. You need to establish timeline for deliverables. So as you prioritize the certain items in your categories, you're going to have however many items you had. We had probably 50 or 60 items that could be assigned a point value. We prioritized them into quadrants, and we had deliverables for those quadrants. Obviously, the quick wins we could do early were done in the first month. Some of the other ones were done on a quarter basis, and some of the last ones were done just before the competition ended because it took time to either establish a budget or to coordinate with the people that were required to implement effectively. You need to communicate your mission and goals to the employees. This is vital, and it's the third item I'm going to talk about. But constant communication keeps excitement. Excitement will breed success. If people are excited about participating and are willing to make that change, you're not going to get the resistance of individual participation. And then it becomes a fun, camaraderie-based competition for your organization to compete with other individuals within the Arlington, Virginia area. Incremental implementation of items is okay. While some items are going to be quick wins, very easy, it could be double-sided printing, double-sided copying. Some items may take more time, and it's okay. So, you don't have to do everything on day one. This is a long process. It will take time, and that's acceptable, and people just need to accept that. Be creative. I'm going to give you some examples of some of the employee engagement ideas we used, but whatever works for your company is what you need to think about within your organization. What worked for us may not work for you, but you may have ideas of how to be creative. Some examples that I'll talk about are newsletters, mugs, and we had a notice of violation. It looked like a parking ticket. It was humorous, and some of the description of items I'll go through in a minute. The last item, we also used the Green Office Challenge not just to reduce our emissions and not just to compete against the other companies that were participants, but we wanted, it's part of our global sustainability commitments that we as a firm, as a company, adopted. And so part of the process was establishing and marketing to our client base and to the community at large what we're doing. It says each of you that are participating, there are thousands of companies in the Arlington, Virginia area, but the select of you that are participating sets you apart, and you should promote that you are being set apart from other companies in your community and that you want to make a difference. It's a very marketable item that extends to brand. Communication. So each green team should work with your marketing or HR to determine how many communications and when to communicate. If you don't have HR or marketing departments, that's okay. Being a larger company, we wanted to run certain communications through our HR because of really just the perceptions of the office staff or secretaries getting mandates from a green team. We wanted it to have the air of this is the first firm decision versus this is just a green team initiative. It created a sense of importance to the mandates. Communicate small wins. As you're going to learn, not everybody is going to be buying into this program for various reasons. Some because they're resistant to change, some because they don't think it's going to make a difference, some because they think this may just be a marketing initiative. But the truth is, it does make a difference. And if you communicate your wins as you're creating them, and we have an intranet that we use internally, and we would always post things. We posted, bulletin boards and newsletters in our kitchen area. It creates this excitement, and that excitement went on for a year. Is it a daily excitement? Of course not. But it was a constant reminder that we're trying to make a difference one step at a time, and that's what kept our employees engaged. And then celebrate successes. Throughout our process, we had lunches, we had cocktail hours, we just did different things to just continue the excitement. The Green Team developed speaking points. It is instrumental that your Green Team be able to articulate to the company and to any clients or media what you're trying to do and how you're doing it. And so having just a few bullet points of themed messages will just empower everybody to do that. So what are the tools? Our Green Team was called the Environmental Task Force. And we had to implement not just our Green Office Challenge, but our sustainability commitments. So what did we do? As was just discussed earlier, one of the things we did was we went to sleep mode on computers. But we also, on the afternoon, we would send a pop-up to every user in the company as a reminder, please turn off your lights and monitors. And it was something that our technology department did. It was an automatic setting. We started out with it daily in the beginning. We knew that would become an annoyance, so we went to weekly towards the middle. We provided reusable glasses. Pre the Green Office Challenge, like many organizations, we bought cheap styrofoam cups. They hold the heat. They were inexpensive. Obviously not very friendly to the environment. So we bought mugs. But we bought mugs and we actually put on there Levenfeld-Perlstein, always thinking green. We're re-establishing that commitment. We also purchased sport water bottles for every employee so that they can have water at their desk if they want. And we also had fancy travel mugs. Depending on if employees participated and were actually making a difference, they were rewarded with a fancier mug. These little specialties made a difference because you saw them on desks. You saw them on secretary desks. You saw them on attorney desks. You saw them on management. And so whether it was unintentional or intentional, the message was we're all participating. This was kind of our featured creative tool that the Chicago Green Office Challenge shared with our participants mid-challenge because it was just really unique. It was something that we came up with called a notice of violation. It looks like, as you can see on your screen, it's kind of modeled after like what would look like a parking ticket. And we would walk around. We had the Green Office Challenge, our task members were sheriffs, if you will. They were deputized. And we would cite people for violations. We would paste this little cutout of the ticket on their computer screen. And I wasn't sure that you could read all the entries on the ticket, so I wrote down some of the types of things that we would have here. Failing to turn off lights, excessive use of styrofoam, failing to properly use a recycling box. These are all things that we wanted people to do, and we were citing them for not doing it. Excessive paper use. Then became the humor aspect. It was clearly a joke. Conspicuous consumption, waste, disregarding LP environmental guidelines. The one that I use mostly with my peers was mocking members of the Environmental Task Force. So when people would make comments, I would cite them for mocking me. It empowered. It was a joke. It was lighthearted. And then they got to the actual silly, which is endangering other humans. And the last one I didn't even put up there but it's on number 10 on the violation, was sloth. The idea here is to be a joke. That third column is a description of the violations. We checked that box. It had you had to pay some money, which then by the end said you don't have to pay. And all the small fine print was stop, take a look in the mirror. This is a joke. Enjoy. It's Make a Laugh Foundations. This tool was probably the most excitement we got in the challenge because people didn't want to be challenged. As a law firm, we send out invoices to our clients, so there's piles of paper. So we went to the accounting department and cited them for excessive use of paper. They have to send out the invoices. We don't have the electronic billing yet. Our industry is just not caught up with that, but it's just all fun. We handed out the CFL light bulbs to every employee. We required every employee to change their email signature to what you see here. We're committed to the environment. Please join us and consider not printing the email. The reason for this is whether or not the recipient printed or didn't print was irrelevant. It was reinforcing to our employees the importance that we're always thinking of our green aspects, and it was sending a message to our clients, we care about it. Cost savings. We're only a 100-employee firm. We saved over $36,000 a year and are continuing to. A large portion of that was in reduced utility usage by going to CFL bulbs throughout the entire firm, 2 floors of an office building, replacing our constant purchase of disposable plastic and styrofoam, the incredible reduction in paper usage. Not only do we do double-sided copying and select printers or double-sided printing, but as a firm we mandated all communications to clients will go by email unless we don't have an email address or unless the circumstances require otherwise. So not only did we reduce the stationery, we reduced the envelopes, and the only party that was upset was the U.S. Postal Service because our cost for postage went down in the significant, over 5 figures. So they all have a cost-saving effect. Communications, with a few minutes left, we communicated with our employees in a newsletter. We also sent out newsletters to our clients as a firm, but we added a green section to talk about our Green Office Challenge participation and always reinforcing with tips. Lastly, if you want further information on what we did, we set up a corporate social responsibility webpage on our internet webpage. It has more samples of our newsletters. It has our sustainability commitments. And it has just more information about what we did and our successes. We're trying to inspire other companies in Chicago to get on the bandwagon. And if you ever wanted to contact either me or our corporate social responsibility team, the email is up there at csr@lplegal.com, and I'm happy to respond to you on a one-on-one basis to provide you information or documents that we used so that you can be inspired to make a difference. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Howard. That was a really great overview and a lot of details about what you guys are doing and the success you guys have had. So congratulations to you on that success. Now I'd like to turn it over to our final speaker for this morning. I'm going to turn it over to Lauren Pitcher, who manages strategic communications for EPA's Energy Star program. Her articles have appeared in School Planning and Management magazine and EcoLogic, and she frequently presents on ways that organizations can promote their commitment to sustainability. Laura has more than a decade of experience in marketing and communications. So welcome, Lauren.
Great, thanks. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Howard, that was a great presentation, and I liked it because it really demonstrated what we say all the time here at EPA, which is that when put together, those small steps really can add up and make a huge difference. And I really liked how you really showed how you could do that. So on to my presentation. So some organizations like Howard's are lucky to have their own in-house marketing powerhouse that is on board with your green initiatives. But we realize that not everyone is so lucky. Not everyone has that kind of support. So what I'm going to do is spend a few minutes talking about some great free resources that EPA can provide to help you with your own green initiatives. And all these resources fall under the banner of our Bring Your Green to Work with Energy Star campaign. And what this is, it's a free off-the-shelf toolkit filled with ways to raise awareness about energy use in the workplace. And you know, Howard was absolutely right when he said that the participation and engagement of your employees is critical to your success. We couldn't agree more. And so this whole campaign was really designed for the layperson. We tried to make everything really fun and easy to understand so that it would be adopted and it would actually do the job of engaging employees. So everything we have is housed here on the Energy Star website at energystar.gov/work, and you'll see that URL later. And what I'm going to do is just really quickly run through everything that's here. So the first thing we have is a video featuring Danny Seo. And for those of you not familiar with him, he is sort of a green lifestyle expert. He's sort of like the green Martha Stewart. He's a frequent guest on Oprah and things like that. But he's a great guy. He's a passionate environmentalist, and he was happy to help us out with this video. And what he does is he takes viewers on a tour of an Energy Star labeled building, and he talks about two things. He talks about what can be done in the boiler room by the facility managers, but also just as important is what can be done by the employees up within the office building at their desks and around the office. So it's about a 4-minute video, and that's the first thing we have. Next, we have a couple animated tools that people can explore. So here on the screen, we have a cubicle, and users can click around on the different stars. You can see the stars here. Once they click on the stars, that actually animates the cubicle, and it shows different energy-saving strategies that a person can use in an office setting. So one of the things that we often hear is that people don't feel empowered as sort of a cubicle dweller. They don't necessarily feel empowered to save energy and make a difference. And what this really shows is that you can. There are a lot of things that you can do without getting off your duff to save energy where you work. So that's the cubicle. And then we have a similar tool here, except that it's a manufacturing plant instead of cubicle. So this probably won't be that useful to those of you on the phone today, but it's still fun to kind of go around the factory and try to help them save energy. And again, every time you click on one of the stars, it just animates these different energy-saving strategies. A great way to engage people is through our Energy IQ quiz. This has 10 questions about energy, and the quiz offers more information on each topic if you're interested. So once you answer, it gives you the option to learn more about that topic, in this case, power settings on your computer. So this could become the basis for a fun inter-office competition, or some of our partners use it as an on-site activity. If they have an energy fair or an Earth Day fair, they set up some computers and set these quizzes up and have people take them. And you know, you can do whatever you want with it, but you can really make this into something a lot more fun, a lot bigger than what it is. On this Bring Your Green to Work site, you'll also find links to download and order posters and tip cards. Arlington County showed some of the great posters that they create. If you don't have the ability to create your own, we've got posters and tip cards that you can use. And they, again, just show very simple tips for very simple actions that you can take at work that, when put together, can make a big difference. One of my favorite tools that we offer is this Green Team checklist. I think some of you, I heard that some of you already have green teams and some of you don't. Either way, this takes all the guesswork out of the process and gives a good step-by-step guide to how to form a winning team. Howard mentioned the importance of having a good cross-section of your company, and that is certainly included in here. We give guidance about who to include, what kind of projects to tackle, and other advice about how to do it. So this is a really, really useful tool. Also, if it would be helpful to have some fast facts on energy use in buildings, we have this handy sheet of them. You can use these facts in presentations or any literature you create, posters, tip cards, any kind of information, or just kind of memorize them to have handy for an elevator conversation. It's really up to you, but the facts are right there for you to use as you see fit. So for all the stuff that I've mentioned, we can provide linking instructions if you want to host any of this stuff on your website or your intranet, and that includes the video, the animated cubicle or the quiz. And so here you see one of our partners who hosts the cubicle on their intranet. And finally, this is our most recent addition to the Bring Your Green to Work suite of tools. Many of you are probably familiar with the brown bag lunch and learn type of thing that a lot of companies offer. This is an off-the-shelf lunch and learn presentation on how to save energy at work. And it's everything you could ever need. You don't need to do anything. It includes a PowerPoint presentation. It even has speaker notes. We have an invitation and a poster that you can customize to promote and advertise the presentation, and the ability to order handouts and tip cards for your attendees. So everything's all right there. And again, you can find that on the Bring Your Green to Work website. And that is it. So lots of tools, lots of great resources there for you to use in your energy-saving campaigns at work. And of course, if you have any other questions about anything, feel free to contact me. But that is what EPA can offer.
Great. Thanks a lot, Lauren. So with that, we've ended a little bit early, and what we want to do is open it up for Q&A at this point. And it seems as though many of you have joined over the computer. So the way that you'll have to ask your question is simply typing it into the chat window of the webinar software. If you have joined over the telephone, you can also click the raise hand button, and we'll go ahead and unmute you to ask your question out loud. And so, Colleen, it looks like you raised your hand, but it also looks like you may be joined over your computer screen. I'll try to unmute you and see if we can hear you. Are you there? Colleen? Okay, so Colleen will type her question into the chat window, and we'll go ahead and read it out loud as soon as she's done that. Let's see. We've heard a lot of really great presentations today, a lot of creative ideas. We hope that this is giving you a good overview of the kinds of things that you can use to get started with a green team in your office space. Again, these are resources available to you to help you communicate to all of your employees, whether or not they necessarily are buying into the green initiative. So I'll just give it a couple more seconds to see if anybody has any questions for our speakers today. All right, I don't see anyone asking any additional questions. So with that, we can go ahead and conclude today's webinar. But first, we want to make sure to remind you that February 14th is our Mingling Monday breakfast. That's at the Arlington Transportation Partners offices down in Roslyn, and those are that topic is on waste and recycling. It's pretty informal. We'll have some muffins or donuts or something available for breakfast, and we'll go ahead and just kind of have a free, open discussion about challenges and success stories around waste and recycling. And then on February 22nd is our second Time Out Tuesday Brown Bag Lunch Series. Bring your lunch over to Courthouse Plaza. And we'll have some expert speakers we've lined up talk to you about renewable energy, both from a building standpoint as well as, and especially, how you can purchase how your business can purchase renewable energy credits. So you don't necessarily have to be in control of the building as a property manager to take advantage of renewable energy out there. It does look like we had one question come in, Howard, for you. And the question is, how many square feet is your office, how many employees you have, and the biggest area of savings, and how much was saved by CFLs versus paper, and so on. And I think you mentioned you have about 100 employees and two floors in your building, and I think you also mentioned that the postage was probably one of your biggest savings, but did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, the CFLs alone and the 2 floors save about 16,000 of the 36. The majority of the rest was paper and postage. We also did some bulk purchasing of our utilities that saved some money. But really it was the CFLs was the biggest quick win. I mean, there's an initial buy cost of each of the bulbs, but that by far and away was the most shocking number from just the average utility electrical bill before we did it and then after. I don't know the square footage of the total. Two floors of a standard office building, and we have 100 employees.
And what was do you know what the initial CFL cost and payback was?
You know, I don't. We delegated that out to our office services manager. I can tell you that the cost of CFLs today has come down tremendously. Just going to Home Depot here in Chicago, there's just a tremendous discount. I mean, you can get 2 or 3 packages of 3 regular CFLs for as cheap as $2, and you can get the recessed lighting, appearance, but it's actually a CFL inside for about the same. That's 60 watts. Equivalent. It only uses about 13 watts of energy, so it's a 75% reduction.
Okay, great. Thanks, Howard. And then the notice of violation ticket, are any of the competitors able to copy some of those ideas and make a ticket of their own for their offices?
Yes, if you go to our website, which was one of the slides in our my last slide, and you go to the environmental responsibility section, you can download a PDF of the notice, copy it, use it as you deem fit, change it to match the temperament of your organization. A more conservative organization may find some of it slightly offensive. A more liberal organization may think it's too conservative and want to be even more pushing the edge. But feel free to use it. It can be downloadable on our website.
Okay, I think that we have several folks on the webinar today who are going to probably take advantage of that offer. So thank you very much for sharing it with everyone.
Yeah, the only suggestion I would have is just be creative. Think about, push the envelope. Think about anything that's going to get people excited. At one point we talked about, but we decided not to from a cost, those little squeeze balls that that you have at desks with a picture of the globe. Just constant reminders of the concepts that you're trying to push, which is sustainability, green initiatives, reduced emissions, just anything that keeps people thinking about it. Maybe they're willing to do that little bit of extra, not just at the organization, but even in their home life. And the last thing I'll say is we did give people tips, and I think one of the slides from on the EPA was just what you can do at home. Unplugging your cell phone charger when you're not using it saves electricity. Unplugging appliances that you normally don't use regularly. It's amazing in your personal life of how you can make a difference from a reduced carbon footprint standpoint and some derivative cost savings on your own home electrical and gas bill.
Yep, good point. Okay, it doesn't look like there have been any other questions submitted, so we want to make sure that we end a little bit early and let you guys get back to business of the day. And special thanks to Howard, who's snowed in, for joining us today when his kids are home, and good luck once you get out there to snowblow.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for joining, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.